Our friendly neighborhood police showed up and they ticketed every adult that was present.
For each individual, it was $2,422.50, and that was the first ticket anybody ever received. And the ticket to the church as an organization, was $11,622.50. This was just simply something that we've done every week, except for storm days, for years and years and years. The church has been there for almost 50 years, and the regular service is Sunday morning, and so it wasn't a concerted effort to organize something to defy. This was just what we always did on Sunday morning.
But one thing I did do is put the Crown and Court on notice verbally that we intend to run a charter case. And with that charter challenge, we intend to challenge Section 2 and Section 7 and Section 15.
Today, I'm going to introduce you to a church in Nova Scotia, Canada, that has received over $100,000 in fines over the course of just 2 weekends. The crime the congregants were alleged to be committing? Going to church when the government told them to stay home like shut-ins. But don't worry, because we're helping them and you can be a part of helping them too. Weston Christian Fellowship Church and the dozens of congregants there are now clients of our Fight the Fines initiative, where in partnership with the registered Canadian charity, the Democracy Fund, and of course, through generous crowdfunding donations, we put people who have received lockdown tickets or summonses in touch with top criminal and civil litigators at no cost to them to fight their lockdown tickets in a court of law. And we could not do any of this very important work without the support of you at home. Now, on May 9th and 16th, 2021, enforcement crackdown took place on Weston Christian Fellowship. Now, services started as they normally do. Police arrived, and then more police officers arrived. They told the elders that if the congregation did not leave, they would be fined. The congregation, though, did not dissipate, and after the service ended, the police began an assembly line of ticket writing. They even ticketed a minor. The authorities basically set up an impaired driving style check stop to ticket Christian believers as they left their church on 2 back-to-back Sundays this spring. All in all, the church received 34 separate tickets to the congregants and another 2 tickets for the church as an entity itself, in excess of $100,000 in fines for this small town Nova Scotia church. So last week, I had a conversation with the elders of the church, and you'll note it was a very careful conversation because, well, obviously they are in some pretty serious legal jeopardy and their issues are still before the courts. So I talked to the elders. We're going to hear from them, and then we're going to sit down with their amazing Fight the Fines lawyer, Christina Lazier. Then I'm going to ask you to help this church because boy, oh boy, do they ever need it.
Our friendly neighborhood police showed up and they ticketed every adult that was present.
And sorry, how many adults and how many children were issued tickets for the crime of going to church?
25 adults and 1 minor.
Now, just to be clear, have you had any cases of COVID in your church? Why are they treating your church like an active shooter event?
We haven't had any active cases of COVID that we know of. And it was, I don't know, they would be responding to complaints. Yeah. It was responding to complaints, and then we can only assume it's neighbors of the church, and they called in, and the police showed up, and on the first day there was five or six cruisers in both exits on the church, and we were issued tickets on our way out of the property, way off the property.
Well, and you likely were not going to leave the property anyway. I mean, it's not like you were trying to flee from police. You weren't doing this in the shadows. This is a decision that you made as elders to gather together. Am I right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we made the decision to be there for anyone, if anyone wanted to come. We didn't. It was everyone's choice, whatever they wanted to choose, because I mean, it was up to their conscience, and as well, it's their choice because that's the freedoms God's given us.
Now, you suspect it was probably a busybody neighbor who likely doesn't go to your church that turned your church into the police. What are the amounts of these tickets? I guess I'd have to do some math to tabulate the enormity of these tickets, but what were the individual tickets? What were the amounts for?
For each individual, it was $2,422.50, and that was the first ticket anybody ever received, and the ticket to the church as an organization, was $11,622.50.
I can't even fathom just the enormity of the thousands of dollars in fines that were levied to your church. And I suppose the children were getting the same tickets too?
No,
Just
Okay.
the
one minor.
Oh, just the one minor. Gentlemen, what does it mean to, sorry, go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
He didn't get a ticket amount. It was just, he was the only minor ticketed, and there were other minors there.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, what does it mean to your church to be hit with a nearly $12,000 fine? What does that mean, practically speaking? What does the church have to cancel? What are you unable to do if you are stuck with a $12,000 fine?
Well, at this point, we're not planning on canceling anything, but at this point, we're not sure if we have to pay that. So we've obviously had many hours of prayer over this, and we're leaning on the Lord to show us and provide. If we're so deemed that we have to pay, then we will, somehow the money will be put together, whether it's fundraising or we all pick apples or what. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
And we've discussed it many times, and in all honesty, it's a very small price to pay for following Christ, really.
And we have had some small donations mailed to the church from community and across the nation, and actually other nations
Yeah,
as well.
One in BC, one locally, and then from an organization in Ontario.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're getting some support, but I want to be able to lift the burden of fighting these fines off your congregation. Going to church should not be a fine. Following your conscience and peacefully attending a church of your own free will is a protected charter right in this country, pandemic or not. Those things don't go away. And so that's why I'm very happy, and I feel privileged to be able to offer you help to fight these fines to everybody who's received them in the congregation, who's reached out to us through fightthefines.com. We'll crowdfund your legal fees, and don't worry about it. We'll do the heavy lifting. From what I understand, you've been in contact with your lawyer, Christina Lazier. I think she's great. She's already gotten some fines kicked out of court already. What does that mean to your congregation to know that there are so many people across Canada who are ready and willing to help and stand with you?
Well, we're encouraged about the support we've received. We're encouraged by the conversations we've had with others in the same situation in Alberta and in Ontario. We know this isn't just limited to where we are, but we're greatly encouraged. You guys are a very helpful organization. We thank you for what you're doing, and without that, it would be quite overwhelming in a lot of ways. None of us are legal experts, and we're not career criminals. That know the system and
Right.
to get around and get press any way we can. This was just simply something that we've done every week, except for storm days, for years and years and years. The church has been there for almost 50 years, and the regular service is Sunday morning, and so it wasn't a concerted effort to organize something to defy. This was just what we always did on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Church.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from all the churches that we're helping. This is not an act of rebellion. It's not an act of defiance of the government. It's an act of obedience to God. And it sounds like the only thing that kept you away from church was an act of God in the form of a storm. So, why would an act of government keep you away?
Well,
and it's been encouraging to see, and I guess this is true of all persecution or hard times or hardships. It kind of bolsters everyone and it draws everyone together. And I know their intent is probably to intimidate and shut down and scare away, but it really hasn't done that. And well, quite honestly, I feel bad for them because they've taken it forward. They haven't just issued an edict; they're taking on the Lord. So, not that we're worthy of him fighting, but this is his place and his body and his choice, not anybody else's, right?
It's interesting because the governments don't understand that the church always wins and the church thrives in persecution. The same is true here in Alberta. Pastor James Coates' church is booming. They're looking for more land to build a bigger church. Likewise with Tim Stevens, his church has outgrown its building. Likewise with Art Poloski, same thing. They've outgrown their building. Every place that this happens, it encourages people through strife to come together. And it shows people just how important it is to gather together in these terrible times when you need support. And the government truly underestimates people of faith.
And it has been great to get to know Christina. She's a good blessing to have around, and had great conversations with her. And I think she's encouraged us and we've encouraged her. So, yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I don't want to keep you too much longer unless there's something else that you need to say or you have to get off your chest. But I know that because your case is currently before the courts, we have to be very careful about what we can say. And there's a lot of money at stake here. And so I don't want to jeopardize this. But if there's anything that you'd like to say in parting, now's your chance.
Well, I think to finish, we'd like to say how thankful we are to the people who have reached out, have called us and expressed their sympathy and empathy, and also for you folks, crowdfunding, and even talking about these things. You've been a great encouragement all over the country, fighting for the little guy, and we're encouraged mostly by how the Lord takes care of us, and we know that He has our best in mind. Whether it's to go through hard times, we would not pick that, but here we are.
Now here's Christina Lazier, the Fight the Fines lawyer, whom I spoke to just a few days ago for an update in the Weston Church case.
We're doing well. We were in court on the 27th of September, and that was actually interesting because the Crown made an application to change the plea date and bring it forward. So that was interesting because most things have been put off. But what turned out is that the church case had been assigned to a senior crown in the Appeals and Special Prosecutions Division of the Provincial Prosecution Service. So that was a little bit interesting insofar as all of the other ticket cases have been handled by sort of average, everyday, regular crowns. So that was interesting to note that somehow this case might be treated differently. Anyway, I had contact with the Crown, had very good discussions and so on. And we are proceeding to bring all of the tickets to one date for plea. And we're going to see whether we're going to have possibly one case that will go forward as the lead case and hold the others in abeyance while the main case is heard. So we're having further discussions about that. And of course, I have to take instructions from all of the people involved because there were 27 tickets issued on the 9th of May. And then there were 7 tickets issued to this church community on the 16th of May. So anyway, there's still some, what I guess I'm saying, some organizational questions here. And also it's not clear yet whether all of these cases are going to end up in the Special Prosecutions Division. I don't know yet. But one thing I did do is put the Crown and Court on notice verbally that we intend to run a charter case. And with that charter challenge, we intend to challenge Section 2 and Section 7 and Section 15. Now, I say I put them on notice, but that was purely verbally. And there's a formal process. You have to notify the attorneys general and that sort of thing. So that's what I will be launching into. And so we're going to be back in court at the end of October. And that's when we'll know more about how we're proceeding.
Christina, I just can't get over the sheer volume of tickets that were issued to this church on 2 consecutive Sundays. You said 27 on the 9th of May, another 7 more on the 16th of May, totaling 34 tickets. What's the average price of just one of these tickets?
Well, for the individuals, the adults, $2,422 a piece. And those were first instance tickets. And they are the highest cost fine that can be levied. And then for the church proper, as an organization, it received 2 fines, and those were approximately $11,600 each. So these are significant fines.
Now, friends, here's where I ask for your help. It shouldn't be a crime to go to church in a free country. And it's just my opinion, but during this pandemic, I think we need church more than ever. And it's been clear. Our pastors and our churches, they are frontline workers and emergency services workers too, in a time where there is also a health crisis of despair and depression and hopelessness. To help the congregation of the Weston Christian Fellowship Church, please donate today at fightthefines.com, where your donations not only help the good people of this small town church, but also approximately 2,200 other people and pastors and businesses all across this great country fight their lockdown tickets in court at no cost to them. And none of this money comes to us here at Rebel News. Rather, it goes directly to a registered Canadian charity called the Democracy Fund. And that charity works to advance the civil liberties of all Canadians. This means your donations to Fight the Fines qualify for a charitable tax receipt. Thank you to everyone who has donated and who continues to donate to fightthefines.com. Your generosity and your care and concern for your fellow Canadian, someone you've never met, and motivates me, and it motivates our team, and it gives us the ability to help even more people who truly need it. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. If you'd like to help us help the Weston Christian Fellowship Church in Berwick, Nova Scotia, and over 2,000 other people fight their lockdown tickets in court, please donate today at fightthefines.com, and all your donations there now qualify for a charitable tax receipt through the registered Canadian charity, the Democracy Fund.